Hello and welcome to Playing to Win, a weekly podcast produced by My Disability Sport South Australia. We will share stories and experiences about life with a disability and the important role health and well-being plays for us. Our army of guests will also share their experiences as well as the highs, lows and everything in between. My name is Tim Haggis and I am joined by Stephen Palmer, Australian blind cricketer and rising tennis star, and Candice Kennedy, national road tandem bike champion and #1 female blind tennis player in Australia. And we are all playing to win. Evening everyone, welcome to Playing to Win. I'm Tim Haggis and tonight I've got a very special guest, someone I've known most of my life. And we've been through the highs and the lows together, you know, that a bit like the Playing to Win theme. I'd like to welcome to the show Peter Greco. Evening, Pete.
Evening, Tim. Great to be here, my friend.
Thanks, mate. Now, usually the shoe's on the other foot here because you've interviewed me many times and I've invited you to come on and tell us the story of your life. And, for those of our listeners that know you as the radio guy, the guy that's got his finger on the pulse of every bit of news in the disability world. I also know Peter Greco, the very accomplished blind cricketer, and we're going to go through the whole story tonight. So let's start back in the beginning. Pete, where were you born? And I know you're in Adelaide, but tell us about where you were born and grew up, please.
Yeah, so I was born in. Actually, I think I was born at a hospital in Hindmarsh, which apparently is no longer around. I'm not quite sure how that happened. Actually, I haven't fully explored that, but that was where I was born. And my parents, who came out from Italy back in 1955, along with many other European settlers, lived at Campbelltown. So over the first few years of my life, we lived at Campbelltown.
Oh, so you weren't out and growing all the fruit and everything in those early days, Pete.
I like the way you said fruit and everything.
So now tell us just, you seem like such a young and vibrant person, Pete. So what year were you born in? Do you mind saying?
I don't mind saying. I was actually born in the year of the Melbourne Olympics, so 1956.
1956. And so you've got plenty of family. Tell us how many brothers and sisters you've got.
Well, it's a bit of a myth that I've got a big family because there's a lot of us cousins, but I've got one brother and two sisters.
Is that all? Seriously?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's a lot of cousins, though.
Well, I guess I've had a lot to do with the Greco family over the years, and there's just so many of you that I thought you were all, sort of brothers and sisters and that sort of thing. So, okay, so now the story begins where we start to get involved is you lost your sight at an early age. Are you happy to tell us what happened there?
I've got no secrets, Tim. Yeah, so, I can't actually remember this, but I was about 2 years of age, and apparently I was in the backyard digging in a sand pit, and with a piece of wood, and a splinter of wood broke off the stick and got me in the eye. So I lost sight of that eye. They took me to hospital and took the splinter out and lost sight of that eye. And then I developed this thing which is reasonably common from what I can gather, called sympathetic ophthalmia, which is where the good eye goes out with the bad eye. And so I was 2 when I had the accident. Went to Townsend when I was about 8, and then probably lost my sight. Yeah, it's hard to remember because it is a while ago. Hard to remember, probably on times about 12, 11, 13. I guess I'd lost pretty much.
Was that right? So you had sight right up until you were 13?
Some sight. I went to conventional school till I was 8. So in grade 3 when they start using the blackboard and you start writing and stuff like that, I started to struggle, and so the rules were set in motion for me to go to Townsend.
Wow. Okay. So now when I guess you were losing your sight, your family would have been fully around that. How were they about it? We've had a lot of people, I guess, on the show with different situations, and family is very key in this. How did they go? How did they help you adapt to life when you started to lose your sight?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tim. And I've spoken about it a little bit. Sadly, my father's no longer with me. Thankfully, Mum still is. They came out from Italy, as I said, in 1955. So, English was certainly not their first language. And when something like this happens, I I often think, how did they get along? I mean, they had relatives who had either been out here for a while, or particularly later on, like in the mid 60s, I guess, some of the younger ones had learned to speak English fluently, so they were able to translate. But I mean, like they probably didn't know anyone in Italy that had gone blind. It must have been a huge thing. And they were enormously supportive. But by the same token, I often think, gee, it must have been so hard for them to, have navigated the whole system, with English very much as a second language.
Well, I guess we should sort of focus on the era as well. Now, I went to Townsend House in the 70s and you went there in the 60s. So I remember it being a period of time where there wasn't a lot of technology around to support learning. It was Braille, or you could either read or you could do Braille, and that was it. So, and funnily, I've got a memory that my first year at Townsend was your last, I reckon, Pete. So how was learning for you, and and as you went through your learning, you could see and then you couldn't. So how'd that go for you? What did you do?
Interesting you asked that, because I reckon I'm not sure if someone knew something or what the situation was, because I was 8 when I went to Townsend. As I say, that was when my sight was failing, and I guess the need to be able to read and write and see the blackboard, etc., was a bit beyond me. So whether the people at Townsend knew what the prognosis was, I learnt Braille pretty much straight away. So, I mean, that was difficult, but by the same token, in a sense, when that's all you do, or it's all, the only way you learn, then it probably wasn't that difficult. And I'm pretty smart myself, so I probably picked it up pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you're so young as well, I mean, you learn things a lot quicker when you're young, don't you? So you pick it up.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point.
Now, am I right in saying that your textbooks were massive, thick books with Braille, made up of Braille? Is that how you did it?
Textbooks? What were they?
Oh, you did? Did you ever have a textbook or anything? Nothing like that? You just winged it like you're winging this interview.
Exactly. No, you're quite right, actually. No, I mean, of course, this is one of the huge disadvantages, in the sense that, particularly, as you say, in those days, kids who were using Braille had, because I remember, and we might get onto it, going to Pulteney, for a year, or for leaving a matric. And I mean, guys were going to school with a kit bag with the whole library in it. Well, I was, lucky to take one book, because it had probably 8 or 10 volumes. It's just incredible.
Now, there's another thing here, right? Is that you and I have followed a very similar path, in that we've done so many things similarly, because I went to Pulteney after Townsend as well. So now you did year 11 and matric there. So you went from a place where everyone understood your situation. You were given the Braille, and you were, whatever you needed to go. So you went to Pulteney, and you went into mainstream school. So how'd you go? I know you were pretty successful. I already know the story behind that, but how did you adapt from the start?
Yeah, well, if we just stick to Townsend for a while, I boarded at Townsend.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting these days, Tim. I mean, kids that probably live further away from their school than I did, go every day by cab. And I boarded and went home on weekends, which wasn't a bad thing. I mean, it was, it's just.
Which cottage were you in, Pete, by the way?
So, which cottage was I in? That's a great question. I was in the second one from the school.
So who was your cottage mum? Cottage.
That was the couple with the young house mother. So Peggy Scott was in one of them.
Yeah.
And the Stevensons, I think they were, weren't they?
The Stevensons, yeah.
I should have Phil Vanderpeer with me, because he's an encyclopedia on that stuff. He says, I remember when, and I can't remember it from breakfast. So
I'm testing you out tonight, aren't I?
He's got an incredible memory of that stuff. Yeah. So, well, of course, but before the cottages, Tim, we were actually in a dormitory situation.
So you were in there, in the dormitory, were you?
Yeah. I think
so that was above the dining room, as I remember rightly.
Well done, yeah.
And I know we're getting a little bit technical for a few people, but that the old building had a big dining room downstairs, and then above that was there. But apparently the floor was a bit unstable, so they put you all in. They built these cottages, didn't they?
I'm not quite. I think that one. That's an interesting story. I've read that one, but I think the story behind. Oh, you made that up, did you?
We weren't allowed to go up there when I was there. We never went up there.
No, I never know when you're being serious or being silly. No,
sorry.
Tim,
sorry.
So, yeah.
No, I am being serious. It was a very old building.
Yeah, it was an old building. I think way back 1884 or something.
Yeah.
I think that the reason behind the cottages, I'm thinking, was more along the lines of better integration, less institutionalized. I think that was
Yeah,
perhaps
sure.
the thought behind it.
Yeah,
And but we were in big cottages, and interestingly enough, again, it was pretty much the blind boys were in one area, and the boys who were deaf were in another. But
yeah,
having said that, we did have a little bit of interaction with the deaf kids. And before I talk about partners, I just wanted to say I know that a number of people have got harrowing stories and memories of boarding school and maybe at
yeah,
Townsend, but I mean, pardon the pun, I never saw much of it. I mean, there was a bit of bullying and
yeah.
carrying on and stuff like that, but nothing that has scarred me for life. So, I remember the first few days at Townsend were so difficult because living away from
Yeah,
home.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
people like, as I say, Phil Vanderpeer, who I've known from then. I mean, we're
So
still
he
in
was there
touch.
with you?
Yeah, well, he was there a bit before me.
Yeah,
But Phil and Adrian came along a bit later. Adrian and Matthew. I
yeah,
mean, these guys, we've
yeah,
remained friends and in
yeah,
touch. 60 or 50 years later. So,
yeah. Well,
um,
you would have been there around about Phil Radford's time as well, wouldn't you?
Phil Radford was at school. Yeah, I don't think he boarded. I don't. Oh, yes, he
Yeah,
did.
no.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. You're right.
Didn't
Yeah,
he? He came from the country.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
so
Yes, he did board.
and I
Yeah.
used to get a taxi with a guy called Greg Kerrigan. You would have known him as well, wouldn't you?
Greg Kerrigan was a great young lad. Sadly, he
Yeah.
passed away very, very young.
Oh,
But
yeah, he did. Yeah.
he, we actually were in the same year in the same class for a number of years. So we did leaving at Townsend before I went to Pulteney, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure what happened to Greg after that, but I know he passed away quite
Well,
young.
I remember he left at the end of that, and I think he just went on and didn't, because I think he got sick pretty quickly after that. And I remember seeing something on, I think it was 1981 or something. He didn't live very long after school, I don't think, which was really sad. And unfortunately, one thing I guess I could mention now is we probably have known, you and I, between us, a lot of people who had more than vision impairment as a thing, and they have other illnesses, and we've lost a few along the way, haven't we, Pete?
Oh, Tim, that is so true. And I remember at the 50th anniversary of the cricket dinner, blind cricket in South Australia dinner, and I singled out two young ladies in particular who passed away way too young. And again, on reflection, leading up to that evening, I thought of that there was Tanya Johnson, who was probably 15, 16, 17. She was playing cricket with blokes who were 50, 60, 70. Blokes like you and me who, probably weren't the most cultured as far as language goes, but she fitted in so well. And, and you think back to it and think, gosh, what a person. And,
Yeah, she was special.
soon.
Definitely was. And
Well,
I
you
think
knew her very well.
she made a very lasting impression on all of us, and still, like, think about her to this day. And it's been like, she died 2 days after my son Shay was born.
Right.
And so he's nearly 22 now, so that's how long ago it was. And she made a huge impression. It was really hard to deal with something so good coming along, and then that happening at the same time, and that's probably why it was. But yeah, and who was the other one, Pete? I'm just
Sylvie Demiri.
Sylvie, yeah, totally. Oh, now that, yeah, so sad about her. I mean, she was really going places, wasn't she?
She was as impressive a young person as I've ever met. I actually interviewed her when she was 14 or 15, when she was up at Weeper, up in the NT, and she used to, run in the outback to get fit for athletics, and came to town, did law, as I say, was as impressive as anyone you'd meet, and played a bit of blind cricket, but also
so down to earth as well. She really nice. I remember last time I saw her, we were at a guide dog because the RSB were inviting people interested in getting a guide dog to come along to a thing, and I was there, right? And she came over to me. How you going, Sylvie? I mean, far out, she's so independent, and she could move around a room and talk to people, and it's incredible. So you're right.
I've heard some great stories about her. She, of course, became a lawyer, and I've heard some great stories about the way that some of the people that she defended for, probably not great things. The way that they responded to her and respected her. So for hardened criminals to earn respect from hardened criminals, says something about a person.
She was a very gentle person, like you just, just a kind, nice person. So yeah, you're right. So there's just a couple of people, and there were more. And then we just talked about Greg Kerrigan before, who made an impact on me because I met him when I was 7 and kind of knew him a little bit. And he used to have those funny dizzy spells when he fell over, and we'd all wonder why. That. So there's been a lot of that. So Townsend as an experience for you, Pete. Did you think it was good? It helped build you up for the next phase?
I think so. Yeah, I didn't have any issues where you got PTSD from it. I mean, I'm sure there have people that have, and my empathy and sympathy are with those. And if anything untoward did happen, then hopefully they've been able to seek some
well, it might have been before our time. I think that kind of stuff. I think if there was any, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think we're in the era where they kind of started to realise that vision impaired people can do other things besides weed baskets and things like that. So not to be too controversial. So then you went to Pulteney. So big leap, because I know it's a big environment, busy academic place. So how did that go?
Yeah, well, that was interesting because, as I said, I was boarding at Townsend, and then I was going to school every day at Pulteney, which of course is on South Terrace for those who mightn't be aware. So I was getting a train into town I used to get a lift to the station with my dad, get a lift to the train station with my dad, get the train in to North Terrace, and then get a bus out to South Terrace. So, one of the things that I always used to, I don't know about smile about, but I used to probably leave home at 7 and get home at probably 5:30. The guys that were going to school, sort of with me or in my class, were either probably driving to school or getting a lift, and so they'll probably had 3 hours extra a day to study or rest or do whatever, and I think that's where I learnt to sleep on public transport was.
So were you still living in Campbelltown at that time, or what were you doing?
No, we're at Waterloo Corner by then.
Corner by then. You've come in on the train. Now I remember back then that bus would have come down King William Road and up through, right? So you've had to walk up from the station, cross over North Terrace and find the bus stop, which is a pretty incredible thing. So how much mobility training did you need to pull that off?
I had a bit of mobility training late at Townsend, probably the last year at Townsend. And then a guy called Orrin Newby, who I don't know what's happened to him. He was an American orientation and mobility instructor who came out at that time. Then we also did some training after that, before going to Pulteney. So in a sense, during the school holidays, between leaving Townsend and starting at Pulteney. So, and I mean, this is back in the 70s, so traffic was probably a little bit less, even though I don't reckon audio tactile lights had come in at that stage.
No, and I'd say you would have got off, now I know, because you would have got off near kind of where the C-Link building is, I think, or was there, and walked down South Terrace and into Pulteney, but you had to get right through the quadrangle and across to where the year 11 rooms were, if I remember rightly, on the far side. So you got a lot of navigating to do. Now, was that the scariest part, or was the learning harder than that, learning all that stuff?
I think the school was sort of okay in terms of less cars in the quadrangle, Tim, than the roads. I think the roads were a little bit scary, but I'd had a little bit of training, and so less traffic in those days. And I guess the age that we were, you probably don't think about what could happen as much as others might have. So,
because I suppose it was a little while ago, but there were significant things going on in Adelaide at the time, like 73. Was it 73 when the 2 young girls went missing from the footy and stuff? Yeah. So there wasn't. So Adelaide's always been a place where, although you're a little bit older and far more, you're probably capable, but massive. That's a massive. I mean, when I think about it now, that's a massive lot of, mobility that you needed to do to get all that done. Then carry all those braille books you probably had in your bag, and a brailler with you. Did you take a brailler in?
I took a brailler with me as well. So actually no. What happened was I didn't have a backpack. I actually had a bag sort of over my shoulder, and then the cane in one hand and the brailler in the other. So think that's why I've got these
Right.
that's why I've got these magnificently strong arms.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, gee, that's some sort of feat. Now, you weren't the first academic highlight at Pulteney. Malcolm Penn did go there as well, didn't he? Before you,
He
so
certainly did, yeah. Malcolm, I
he,
reckon. Well, Malcolm must be, I reckon, he'd be close to 20 years older than me. So he probably went in the 50s, I would think.
I reckon he's 20 years older than you. I reckon he was born about 1940 or no later than 39. I
Oh,
reckon.
15, yeah, 15, 16
Yeah,
years, yeah.
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 So, but he did that. I mean, so who with your because the story that Rosemary told was about how she was reading to him in the beginning and how she met you. Didn't meet a girl that way, did you, Pete?
I never had such luck, Tim. No.
Did you have anyone helping you read your stuff, or
well, they weren't as attractive as Rosemary would have been, Tim. But yeah,
exactly.
no, I was pretty lucky. I mean, as I said, similarly with Townsend, I didn't have too many bad experiences at Pulteney, and the guys were pretty good. And
yeah,
I mean, I think there'd been a couple of Ken Brunton. I'm not sure if you remember Ken. Ken was a teacher who was blind and was at Pulteney, so he was.
I do remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was a bit of a conduit, if you like, or I guess he had a bit of an idea of what requirements we had. Of course, the biggest difficulty was the fact that by the time you got your books, it was a long way after everyone else had got them. So that always made it a little bit more challenging.
Now, interestingly, I did an interview with Gary Stinchcombe. You know Gary from
Very
cricket?
Well,
yeah.
Mm.
Gary. So Gary was a school teacher, and he talked about he just said that when he did it, because he was he's probably, I think he's a bit younger than you, maybe a couple of years or something, and he just said that he had to have a team of people to help him get through uni because he couldn't get the stuff. Like, he was always asking to get stuff ready for him, and it wasn't ever ready, and he needed, like, so when he did get it, he was under the pump trying to get assignments out and stuff like that. So how was that? Because I mean, you're doing a full load at year 11, and it's not like today when you can do things part-time or in a modified way. You it's all in or nothing, isn't it? So how did you manage the workload?
Well, I mean, to be without wanting to sound too self-effacing, I really did. No, I really did work hard. I mean, I guess I knew it was a bit of a privilege and a bit of an opportunity to be going to Pulteney. So I worked pretty hard, and I guess without stereotyping, I guess coming from perhaps Italian parents who also had a hard work ethic, it probably just trickled down, if you like. So I mean, it was certainly.
I was going to say, did you have career aspirations at that time, or this is before the radio days, of course?
Yeah. Well, I think probably a lot of people suggested, because I guess people like Malcolm had been before us, and I met a couple of other young guys. In fact, I reckon one of them might have been Kim Hand, who was also doing law, who was studying law. I reckon one evening Malcolm invited us around and sort of, this is this is what I did, if you want to sort of pick my brains. And I reckon Kim Hand was there. So I guess I was sort of encouraged, if you like, in that area, but it didn't really float my boat, as they like to say. It wasn't probably the thing I was really, really passionate about.
Well, so did you just want to complete your education and then look at your options afterwards, or?
Definitely wanted to finish year 12 and then sort of see what happened from there. Yeah.
And you chose and the thing I probably skipped over a bit was when you went from Townsend to Pulteney. Did you choose that? Did you want to do that, or did your mum and dad want you to, or how was it? Like a team effort. How did you decide?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know exactly. I think again, without wishing to brag too much, I think they probably, as in Townsend, might have thought, look, this guy might have the ability to perhaps try, because I mean at that stage I think leaving was available at Townsend, but not matric. And I think they might have said, look, this guy might be able to handle matric. And of course, so I did leaving at Townsend, and I think the idea was to do leaving at Pulteney, so you get a bit of a toe in the water, get an idea of what the place is like, and then have a full go at matric the year after. So I think, to answer your question, I guess it was probably a team effort. I mean, I can't remember. I woke up one morning or someone said to me, you should go to to Pulteney. I can't quite remember how that all came about.
So, but you got on the pathway. So you must have been, at that young age, you must have been a bit of a groundbreaker and a bit of a person who wanted to get things done. So I'm gathering now that now I want to bring the cricket in a bit now. So this is about when you would have started playing cricket as well, isn't it?
I started playing cricket back in 1970. Again, I can't remember the exact detail of it, but people like Peter Hetherington, Malcolm Penn, there he goes again. Les Wood, Tony Starkey. These guys came down to Pulteney to the cottages because we were obviously boarding during the week, came down weeknights or a weeknight, sort of showed us blind cricket and, it sort of went from there. And again, just like my scholastic skills, someone must have said, this guy's got a bit of cricketing skills, maybe we can get him into the team.
Well, we're going to get to the actual magnitude of your cricket ability, Pete, because seriously, you underplay this a lot, but we've both been around that game a very long time, and we will get to it. So, because I want to tell you, my first experience of blind cricket was you and Peter Hetherington coming to Townsend House and showing us.
I thought this was about me.
No, I know it is, but I'm just going to say you had exactly the same experience with Peter Hetherington and Les Wood, so Malcolm Penn. So you were the next one. They put you in the school thing because they always used to come out and visit, and we all knew about it and played it and stuff. So it was around because there was nothing else around at that time, was there? There's no other blind sport.
Absolutely,
was there?
That's exactly right. Yeah,
we were the first ones off the block. So you started playing cricket at 15, and now the legend has it that you have a cricket pitch in your front yard. Is that true?
That was true. Yes. Well, actually, it was sort of like. Without boring with the details, when we first moved to Waterloo Corner, we had a very old house. Yeah. And we put a cricket pitch in front of that, and then we built a new house next to the old house, but the cricket pitch remained in front of the old house. So that was.
Was that by the time you'd finished doing your bowling practice, or you didn't need it anymore, or?
Well, I think it probably did help actually, but. The old cricket pitch, it brings back some great memories.
Well, it certainly, I guess you got all your cousins and family out there doing it too, because the most incredibly difficult team to play, I think even more than some of the state matches I've played in, the Greco family team was pretty hard to beat. Not only could they all bowl, they could all bat and field, and they didn't give you a single chance. So you got your whole family involved in that. So from the very start, when you started thinking, I'm going to play cricket, did you have all your cousins around playing backyard with you, or how did that?
Yeah, well, work? I think, again, before blind cricket, or before the, Peter Hetherington of the world came to Pulteney, to Townsend, I used to, we used to play with my brother in the front yard, as it were, just, with conventional cricket ball and cricket bat, because I always loved sport. So we kick a footy or play a bit of cricket. So, discovering blind cricket, in the sense, discovering a sport that was, very much specific for a person who's blind or vision impaired was, that was just incredible. Like, you think, well, this is sort of cut out for me, it was amazing. And, so that's, I guess.
So were you just dying to play a sport of some sort? Were you just wanting to all the time, or you just needed?
Yeah, well, I was mucking around playing with my brother, but to play in a sense in a sort of structured competition, and as I say, with rules that would rules and equipment that was user friendly for a person who's blind or has low vision was just amazing, really, when you think about it.
Well, I don't think that ball's that friendly when you're bowling it, Pete, but anyway, you're right. I mean, the ball with the bell, you got the whole, the game's made for us. And I think
absolutely
so you just fell in love with it and wanted to play it. Is that how it went?
Yeah. Couldn't get enough of it. I mean, I couldn't get enough of playing sport anyway, but then, as I say, when this game, comes along and presents itself, and you think, well, I can play this as well as anyone, or probably I should play this better than anyone, because I can get to know the intricacies of the game and the ball better than a person who's sighted.
Well, that was the conclusion of part 1 of Peter Greco interview. Stay tuned for part 2 next week.